Welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 from 6 months ago. This week we're going to be looking back at the Hot Top 10 from October 5th, 2018, and I'm recording this on April 4th, 2019. As always, it's just I let you know the date that I record it just so you know when this information was actually the most relevant. This week's list is maybe less informative in some ways in my mind than typical. It's very much dominated by books that were dollar to cover price books that were optioned for TV shows and saw a spike because of that, but don't know yet if those TV shows are going to happen or if they're good, if they're going to go the way of Umbrella Academy or if they're going to go the way of Inhumans in terms of a TV show. So just have to wait and see on that. But so it's somewhat limited, I think, in the variety of books that we're getting this week, at least. We do have a couple of cover buys and one book with longer term value, but we'll get into those and just get started with the list. First up at number 10 is Deathstroke number 36, the Mattina B cover. And this was just a hot cover. We've had several Mattinas on the list here recently. Most of them have been like Gamora, older Mattina books that have had longer term value. This was a book that had just come out this week. It has it's a really nice Deathstroke and has several cool images of the Batman villains behind him. It's just a really cool cover. Out of the gate, it was a $10 to $15 book. And basically that's where it's been. I think there was enough warning on this one again where people knew that it was coming. If you really wanted it, you could order it. Obviously, it is going for more than cover, but it's basically a $5 to $15 book now, depending on with shipping and everything else. 9.8s can be had for $40 to $50 right now. So it's really just a cool cover. It's going to have a little bit of value. I don't know that it's going to have any more than this long term. I think this is probably what it's always going to be. It might become a $10 to $20 book instead of a $5 to $15, but I don't know that it's ever going to do anything more than what it is currently because I think there's just enough of them out there. At number 9 on the list, we have Warrior Nun Aurelia? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. No, Warrior Nun Aurelia, number 1. And if this isn't a 90s book, I don't know what is a 90s book. It's a warrior nun in a sexy outfit. I mean, what do you want for straight out of the 90s if I've ever seen one? This was a $3 to $5 book. But like I talked about before, there was an announcement about a Netflix show in the works. I don't know if the show's still coming or not, but then I jumped from that $3 to $5 book to a $25 book. Now it's mostly a $10 to $20 book, although occasionally they do go for a little more than that. But really, it's been pretty consistently in the $10 to $20, and you can get multiple issues, usually like groups of issues for $20 to $30. So has maintained a little bit of the value compared to what it was historically. I think a lot of this will depend on how good the show is. If this show is really good, this book might take off. If it's not, probably won't. I've never read this book, but I have my doubts about how good a Warrior Nun Aurelia show could be. I'm not sure this is a concept that's really going to work, but hey, I could be wrong before. Other things have taken off, so I won't say, but I would say this really depends on what this show does, whether or not this book's going to have any kind of real long-term value. Number 8 on the list is Fly number 1, the Art Germ variant. And this book is just a ghost. Basically, everything I could find on this book is they're just super hard to find. You don't see them very often. And basically, it jumped from a $25 book to a $60 book back in the fall. That's why it made the list. Now, there's only been a couple of recent sales. It went for like $30 to $40. There's not very many listed. There's only actually one slab I could find of this book on the census. Or at least, well, I should say not necessarily the census. I didn't go to CGC. I'm just looking on Go Collect. There's only one slab listed on Go Collect. and it was a 9.6. This is just a really hard to find book that people, it's an early germ cover that people like. So that, I mean, there's really nothing more to it than that. There was no optioning or anything like that. It's just that this particular cover is really hard to find, and people like it. So that's where the value for this one comes from. I think $30 to $40. To me, that seems like a fairly typical price for a book like this, where it's really just a hard to find cover that people like. Unless it does seem to be common enough that it's keeping it from really taking off, but rare enough that it's maintaining some value. So, number 7 on the list, we have Deadpool number 5, the Garbage Pail Kid cover, and I have like a couple of these, and I didn't pull one out. But so I'll just use the image, and you guys can see that better probably anyway. And this is really was driven by, out of the gate, it was a $15 to $20 book, and it was really driven by the rumor that people gave people nostalgia for the Garbage Pail Kids, but it was really driven by the rumor that Marvel hadn't got permission for this, that this book was potentially going to be pulled or recalled because of it. So people were really jumping on it. That never happened in terms of, there was never a recall. So the book was printed at what it was printed at. They're all still out there. But it has seemed to maintain some value. People like this cover enough that they are continuing to like maintain some value. It's still a $10 to $15 book. Although like 9.8s can be had for $35 to $50, which is not really, if you're paying $10, that's only $25 to get it slabbed. So yeah, maybe if you could find a steal on 9.8, it might be worth it if that's what you really want. Occasionally it does go higher than that $35 to $50, but most of the time, almost all the sales have been $35 to $50 range for a 9.8. So yeah, this is a book, like I said, that I think initially stirred some interest because of the potential controversy with the cover that then never came to anything, but just the nostalgia, I think, of the cover has continued to kind of keep it at double to triple cover price. So, up next we have October Faction number 1. And this is another one of those Netflix announcements. So the second one on our list so far. And basically this is a book that jumped from I think like a $10 book to a $30 to $40 book because of this announcement. Since then, the show itself hasn't happened yet. I don't know. I couldn't find any confirmation that it was still moving forward or if it wasn't. But it's basically dropped back down to a $10 to $25 book. There were virtually no recent slab sales. Only recent was a 9.8 that I didn't actually write down what it went for, which is annoying. So I'm going to cut it right here, and I will insert the value here in just a minute. Okay, the October Faction number 1 information that I kind of forgot to write down. That only recent slab sale for 9.8 went for $100. There are not many of these listed in slabs. I think there was one. There was only one slab, and it was listed kind of in a little higher range, 120ish. But those are the only other slab sale on Go Collect goes clear back to 2015. So that is where October Faction number 1 is going in terms of price. Okay, we're back and we're moving on to number 5, Sparrow Hawk number 1, and this is a Stephanie Hans 1 in 15 variant, and there was kind of the perception of this one that it was going to be really hard to find. Sparrow Hawk was not a high print book. Not many stores ordered 15, so it was that there was pretty hard to find is what was really driving this. This is actually a cover. If my shop had gotten it, I would plan on buying, even though I wasn't necessarily into Sparrow Hawk or knew anything about it, but just because I really loved the cover at the time. They didn't get it, so I didn't buy it. And it basically immediately went from initially 25 and just like within a week jumped to like 50 plus is what this was going for. Now, maybe this book really was hard to find because there's only been 2 recent sales, period. They went for $20 to $30. I couldn't find any slab sales. There's only a very few, like 4 or 5, I think, listed right now on eBay as of when I looked. And there was one slab version of 9.8 was listed for $160. But I think Stephanie Hans is super hot right now with dye and other stuff. This is a really cool cover. It does appear to be fairly limited out there. There's not a lot of them for people to grab. It is maintaining some value, not the crazy $50 value that it initially had, but it, for 1 in 15 to still be going for $20 to $30, so double ratio, that's pretty good for an incentive. I don't feel like I've heard any buzz about the story, so it feels like this is really just being maintained by that Stephanie Hans cover. But that was number 5 on our list, Sparrow Hawk number 1. And number 4 on our list is a New York City Comic Con limited 2000 variant of Return of Wolverine number 1, the J. Scott Campbell glow-in-the-dark cover. It was originally a $25 buy-in at the con. These books do have serial numbers, which is something I think is pretty cool. Like CBSI commented about that being really cool for limited number books. Like if you're going to have like a 500 or 1,000 run or even a 2,000 run, if companies would actually give them serial numbers, that makes it, I think that's a really neat addition to the collecting aspect of things. Now, I don't think you get like $5,000, $10,000 books. I don't think that they need serial numbers, but I think for these like 500, that kind of stuff, I think it's cool. I think it adds a little something. It helps people realize that these books really are that limited. Just my own personal opinion on that. But then it immediately after the con, it went from $25 buy-in to people when they were taking out of the con selling it. It was going for $100. J. Scott Campbell is a popular artist. This is a cool Wolverine cover, but there's so many cool Wolverine covers. It's hard to know which, if they can really sustain. But this one, for the most part, has. It's still going for $50 to $70. Okay, I should rephrase that. So most of the recent sales have been in the $50 to $70 range. Almost all of these are auctions. The buy it now listings are still 90 to 100 plus, but they don't seem to be selling. The buy it nows don't seem to be moving. It's really just these auctions or occasionally a buy it now that gets listed for less in that $50 to $70 range that's moving. These people that are asking 90 to 100 to 100 or 125, those books seem to just be sitting there. They're not moving. 9.8s are going for around 150-ish, which makes sense that if you can get a 9.8 for 150, why would you pay 125 for a raw copy? Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think that's why the price is maintaining down that $50 to $70 range. Now 9.8 signed, which there's a bunch of out there because this was a con exclusive. He was there. There's a bunch of these. Plus, I think he sold some of these through a store signed and they have like the premium thing where you can actually get them slabbed through his store. There's a bunch of 9.8 slab copies out there that are signed. They go for about $250-ish. Oh wait, yeah. So they're going for about $100 more than the regular 9.8s. All right. Next up is Long Lost number 1 in our number 3 slot. This is another book that's been picked up or optioned for a potential TV series. It jumped from a $10 book to a $30 to $35 book after the option news came out. Now this book is dropped back. It's back to basically a $10 book with occasionally going for 15 to 20. Like 10 to 20 is really the range where it's going depending on shipping and that kind of stuff. Now most of them are listed a little higher. They're asking 15, 20 for them, but most of the sales are closer to 10. I couldn't find any slab sales of this book. There was one listed at 150. And there was another one listed for auction. Then the auction started at 100. So there were 2 slabs on eBay when I looked, but there were no no records of any slab sales on Go Collect or on eBay itself. So that was Long Lost number 1. I don't know anything about that story or series. Again, it's one of those that Still probably reasonable if you could find a $10 copy if that show takes off like Umbrella Academy, but I don't know if that's going to happen or if the show is even for sure going to happen. So still supposedly is, but you never know. Now we're up to number 2 on our list, and we finally get a book that is going to have long-term value. This is Captain Marvel number 17, the second print, which the second print, technically 17 is the second cameo of Kamala Khan, but this is the second print is the first time she appears on the cover. And if you know anything about this book, it's, you know, that it has gone crazy. Like, people like this character. This book goes for a lot. Back then, 9.8 had hit $1,500, which was a new high. That's the reason it made the list. 9.8s are now consistently going for $1,500, but the last 2 sales were $1,800 and $1,900 each, respectively, and that's where all the listings are now. The other thing you notice about this book is there are a ton of slab copies for sale on eBay. It is almost impossible to find a raw copy. Not impossible, but it's very rare to see a raw copy for sale. People are slabbing this book. If they have it, they've slabbed it, and they're trying to sell it. Like, you can find a couple of raw copies, but there's only been 2 sales of raw copies in like the last 3 months on eBay. Currently, there's no listings for a raw copy. The last 2 sales for raw copies both went around. One went for $500, or just over $500. The other one was a buy it now that I did not look up the actual sale price on, but was listed at $800. So, but they had taken an offer there, and I just didn't get a chance to look that up. But so raw copies are going for somewhere between $500 and $800. But like I said, there are not many of them out there anymore. It seems like everybody, if they have it, they slab it. There were a ton of slab copies for sale on eBay. And they just keep asking more and more, and people keep paying it. So yeah, right now it's headed toward $2,000 for a 9.8 of this book. And last but not least, we are finally at number 1 on our list, and this is Ice Cream Man number 1. Again, this was a cool kind of hot indie book of the last summer. By October, this was basically the reason this book kind of peaked and hit the list was because it had been optioned for TV. It's the rumor. So then it hit $50. Now it's basically still going for $50 to $70. Ice Cream Man still seems to be a pretty popular series. TV show still apparently is happening. So that is what, you know, this book continues to go $50 to $70 range. 9.8, there have not been enough sales to really like lock in on where the price ranges on 9.8s. We've had 125, 135, and 175 are the only 3 9.8 sales. There's also been a sale of a 9.6, but those are the only 4 slab sales yet. So Go Collect is still not sure where to put it. I think it was listed at like 140 for value. But the listings currently on eBay are 185 and 200, but those have not sold. But Ice Cream Man appears to be a hot indie book. There's TV shows still supposedly coming. I say supposedly until it actually, like, they drop a trailer and they announce a date. It's always supposedly, at least for me, which they have not done yet. But this is a book that keeps on chugging, and is a fairly popular series. So that brings us to the end of the list. Like I said, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books on here that were TV options. A couple of just rare covers, a Matina cover, and then one book that is the first cover appearance of a very popular character that just keeps going through the roof. Thanks for joining me, guys. I hope these continue to work out. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to do in terms of analysis to make these, to continue to improve these. But thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you see, and hopefully I'll be bringing you more content that you like coming up soon. I'll catch you later.